You are running with the devil and another victory show. Oh, it feels good to be a winner again. The Devils got back to their winning ways in Tempe this past Saturday night. I'm the RyKno, Ryan Knowles, here with me as always, Big John Caldwell.
How you doing, guys?
And as
Forks
we
up.
always as we always say here on Running with the Devils, you give us 30 minutes, we'll give you the world of Arizona State football. And we have so much to talk about this week. Such an exciting game coming up this Saturday against the UCLA Bruins. Could determine the winner of the Pac-12 South in just the second week of Pac-12 play. Very, very exciting. But
I
first,
was
the Devils bounce back in Tempe last Saturday night, rebounding from their first loss of the season to BYU to knock off the lowly Colorado Buffaloes 35-13. And Big John, it was good for the Devils to kind of, we called this a get right game on the show last week. And I really feel like, that's what the Devils did. They got right in this game, especially when you look at the lack of penalties that they had. And I would consider this to be their most complete win of the season. I
yeah.
think you agree.
I think the only thing that may have had tarnished it was coming out of the third quarter, coming out of halftime, and letting Colorado run down the field on us. But that was it. What I saw.
Yeah, that was really their one bright spot of the game.
Yeah, but those guys are on scholarship too.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some pride there, but definitely we played. I think while we had 7 penalties for 90 yards, they were largely on special teams.
That's right. You said 4. Yeah, I didn't even consider that, but
Well,
that's right. 4 of the
and
7 penalties were on special teams.
we would have been, and our field position would have been phenomenal had that not happened, because obviously our run back game is I see it's got to be in the top third of the pack right now, maybe in the top 2. I haven't checked that spec, but because we have so many of them called back, it really isn't the specs don't, or the stats don't
Yeah, that
do it
was
justice.
and that was an issue a little bit, but I think you're absolutely right about the quarterback play. I think Jaden Daniels played another solid game. Doing his thing, dual threat. I didn't realize this. I was looking at some of the stats today, and he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't. He has only like 30 fewer yards passing than Keaton Slovis.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's doing good things. He's taking care of the football. He's managing the game well. He's a factor. He's definitely a factor in the run game. I know some people have been criticizing him a little bit, but he's making good decisions with the ball. He's not losing the game for the Devils. I mean, at some point, I think he does need to go from game manager to game changer. They will need him to do that at some point, but for right now, he's playing well enough for them to win. I think that's really good enough.
He looked a lot more.
Yeah,
he looked a lot more comfortable in the pocket. The criticism I think we've made here is that he was bailing out too quickly, and while he was running well, it wasn't by design. It was by accident, and or it was chaos. Plays broke down and he ran.
You also want to take what the defense gives you. I mean,
True.
when the defense drops back into coverage, takes away the throwing lanes, you got to, as a mobile quarterback, you got to step up in the pocket and find those lanes to get downfield,
right,
and use your legs. I mean, that's just what the defense is giving you. Take it and say thank you.
But I saw Jaden doing 2 things that really impressed me. One, he was stepping up in the pocket where he hasn't done that all season, and 2, his checkoffs were. He was prepared. He went boom, boom, boom. He went across, and there was games in the first 2 or 3 games he wasn't checking off at all. Practically, he was seeing one guy and bailing out. The checkoffs were very purposeful before he threw the ball, and he was getting that done quickly and getting the ball out much quicker. So the passing games, Jaden's getting better, folks. And this whole usually the biggest progress is between game 1 and 2. I think we saw game 4 the biggest progress, quite frankly, in this team.
Yeah, and I called this game the most complete game of the year as far as offense, defense, being able to move the chains, putting touchdowns on the board when you get in the red zone, things like that. And I think it was definitely the most complete game of the year for Jaden individually as well. just kind of going through some of the notes of the game, just some things that we noticed. Ricky Pearsall, even though he wasn't much of a factor in the receiving game, only 2 receptions for negative yardage, he was a factor in another trick play touchdown. This time on a double pass throwback to Rashad White, who took it 30 yards up the sideline for the touchdown.
Yep.
Very nice play design by Zach Hill. Good job by the old lineman to kind of get out front and pave the way. But again, Ricky Pearsall finding a way to impact the game, even if he's not being utilized as much in the receiving game, being that Swiss Army knife, and that the team utilizing his skills is very good to see.
I love what the defense did. I thought the D line was stellar all night, except for that first drive in the third quarter, and more importantly, they stiffened up, allowed no TDs, just 67 yards passing. That's we expected, because they were not a very good. They were not very
Colorado,
good.
not a very good throwing team with a freshman
Right.
quarterback. Yeah, and I think they were more geared towards stopping Jarek Broussard. I think that was he was a big part of the game plan, which they did for the most part. It was just the change of pace with Fontenot. I don't think they adjusted to well enough, and he was kind of the big factor on that drive to get them into the end zone for the only time of the game. So that was kind of a footnote, especially when you look at how well the defense played in the passing game. They were able to get after Lewis quite a bit in the pass rush, and just really shut everything down for the most part for basically 90% of the game.
Yeah.
And then and then like we mentioned here, second string D lineman, second string defensive players getting a chance to get in the game and get some experience and
play well. I mean, that D line. I mean, some of those kids are just balling out. I mean, they're just. There's not a whole lot of drop off. I feel real comfortable with those guys out there.
Joe Moore with 1.5 sacks in the game.
Joe Moore was a baller. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then just coming back to the offense for a second, Elijah Badger. We talked about him on the show. Everybody's been hyping him up as somebody who can be a game breaker for this team. And he gets the ball, his first touch on a reverse, and takes 20 yards to the end zone. Kind of a nice little preview of what he could be in this offense.
Explosive. His speed, his burst is as good as it gets in the pack. Yeah, he's going to be a huge weapon. And
so that leads us into our players of the game presented. Of course, Herm. Herm. We always like to give at least one Herm quote in this game, and you can read it here. I think this was really great to see them kind of get back to what's been working for them as far as the offense goes. Being able to establish the run and just move the chains and put together some nice drives. That was really great to see for this offense. I think they really needed a game like this to kind of get their confidence back after for the most part, I would call a disappointing showing against BYU.
No doubt.
The penalties, I think, were starting to become a real concern, and the fact that they were able to minimize those and not let them dictate the pace of the game and slow them down, allowed them to get into a rhythm, I think was a big factor as well.
We talked about this. It is almost impossible to flip a switch to as far as penalties and your precision. I thought Herm had the right approach, and that is just play free. If you make a mistake, you're not gonna be running laps the whole next practice. In other words, his approach was just play free and play the game you've been coached to play. In other words, don't focus on the not making the mistake. Play free. It's a different philosophy, and I think it worked. I mean, I like that. That's a player's coach approach.
Yeah, the scoreboard definitely showed that. The fact that they were able to get in the red zone as much as they did and convert them into touchdowns, I think definitely speaks to that. They weren't putting themselves into too many long situations.
Right.
They were just being able to go out there and execute and not have drives bogged down by penalties.
You know,
was such a big factor.
when my brother was playing for the Cowboys, he told me the biggest change from college to pro was, and he had the hardest time with this, was in the pros, he was always so afraid of making a mistake. He wasn't playing free. He wasn't playing his game. And I can see how that can happen in a pro game. Everything's about minimizing error, being really precise. I think that's what Herm was trying to do here, was say, don't worry about it. We will play better. Just be, and I saw a lot of good performances out there. I thought we were there's room for improvement, obviously, but
I saw your boy Case Hatch leading the way on some big plays.
Yeah, he had two penalties on special teams.
Well, hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So.
Well, you see the dude, he freaking he had his face mask bent and had to be removed. Yeah.
Yes, I did hear about that. He keeps breaking face masks.
He's breaking.
He's not afraid to put his face into the fire. That's the kind of thing you want in a fullback. So
he's hitting people so hard, folks, that they're coming up to him afterward going, "Man, you rocked me." His opponents are actually thanking.
Yeah,
are
definitely
complimenting him.
Definitely fun to watch. He definitely shows up on film quite a bit. Number 44 all the time. So. Getting on to our players of the game, as we do every week after a win, presented by Valley Athletic Booster Club. Check out to support local athletics. Check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. And for me, I think sticking with the run game, I think Rashad White has really proven himself as a big factor in this offense, kind of a go-to guy, a safety outlet for Jaden Daniels. And with Chip Trainin being down for 3 weeks now, he's really stepped up and I think played the role as feature back and go-to guy very, very well. And he proved he had a nice game this week. I mean, didn't really blow up the stat sheet on the ground. 11 carries, 37 yards, and a touchdown. But really great to see in the passing game how big of a factor he could be coming out of the backfield. 5 receptions, 70 yards, and that receiving touchdown that we mentioned from Ricky Pearsall that I would say basically broke the Colorado's back at that point. So definitely my player of the game on offense. On defense, Kyle Soli. I mean, this guy was everywhere in this game. 6 tackles, a half a sack that he shared with Joe Moore, and 2.5 tackles for loss. He just was shooting the gaps, just playing his game, knowing where he was supposed to be, knowing his assignment, just being that quarterback of the defense that everybody kind of expects him to be, and making plays when he's given the chance. And that's the kind of play you want from your linebacker. And that's Kyle Soli to a T.
I won't forget. When I think Kyle Soli, I think about that hit he had in the UNLV game where he lit that guy up. Really,
oh yeah,
he bumped. He basically came up and thudded with his body, but the guy went flying, and it was so exciting. He charged up the offense on the next series. That's what a great player he is. He gets the offense excited.
And that shows what kind of leader he is as well.
That's right. Yeah. They get it. So great kid. And I can't help but not mention. And you were sitting with me, and we were talking about watching Connor Soli. He is a gunner.
On special teams.
Special team. He fights off block. He's the first guy down there, but he's fighting off blocks. He's right next to the punter, or to the kickoff man. Excuse me. And he flies down there with abandon, and he just blows people up. And he's the first one on the ball.
That's your perfect special teams player. And that was really great to see them both have good games. When when the Sun Devil story was about their grandfather, that was really, that was a really nice story. I hadn't actually heard that, so really that he was such a big Sun Devil in his own right. That was great for them to have games like that.
I rode down the elevator after the game with his mom and the family, and they're all pretty excited. They were still a little bummed from Suara losing the chaparral in the last play of the game, but
let's not open that wound.
No, we'll get over it. So my 2 players, obviously, Jaden had a great throwing game, 72% completion, 236 yards, 75 yards rushing, and 2 TDs. The rushes were more by design. He wasn't out there solo. He had blockers this time. much more the way you want to see Jaden playing, in a much more
Everybody went the right way on the RPOs. Look what happened.
Yeah, right. And then Merlin had a real solid game. 5 solos, 4 to 6, half a TFL, tackle for loss for 1 yard, and he's while Butler is still remaining very, very solid and he's a vacuum cleaner there.
He's been a perennial player of the week for us on this show. So
right. It's really evident that our starting linebacker core is the heart and soul of this team, and the defense is really designed for them to make the big plays.
Yeah. So those are our players of the game presented by Valley Athletic Booster Club. To support local athletics, check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. Now on to what may be the biggest game of the season. It's really hard to say that. What are we now? 5 weeks into the season?
Week 5, yeah.
Week 5, that's right. And going to the Rose Bowl to play UCLA, definitely a rite of passage for any ASU football player. And some really great memories in that season. I know I went to the game in 2007 to see the Devils play the Bruins. It was a great thrill for me being on that field with all that history. I definitely felt in awe of everything that stadium has seen, and definitely looking for more of the same on Saturday. But UCLA, I mean, they're as good as advertised. I mean, we were watching their game against Stanford before ASU's contest on Saturday. They came out and really played well, coming off their first loss of the season 2 weeks ago against an upset against Fresno State. They're 3-1 on the season. Like I said, they look very, very good against Stanford last week, and they've won 2 in a row now against the Sun Devils. Last year, of course, in Sun Devil Stadium, empty Sun Devil Stadium for the most part, and then back in Pasadena in 2019. Although that one should come with a little bit of an asterisk because that was the year Devils were coming off their loss to Utah, and they were very, very physically beat up. So.
Well, we were beat up. We were not only beat up, but I think we went in that game with this false bravado. We talked about this last year, or the year before last. We went in with we're tough guys too. We got smashed in the mouth, and like Mike Tyson says, it's good to have a game plan. Until you get hit in the mouth. Everybody has a game
plan until you get hit
in the mouth. Yeah, and so it was just one of those things where we got beat twice in it by Utah that year. Last year, weird anomaly. I think we were in that game. Just like SC, fluky things happen, but COVID it's got to have an asterisk next to it.
Very true. Yeah, that's what that's exactly what I'm saying. Both of these last 2 wins kind of came with some subtext to them that factored into ASU maybe not playing their best. So definitely no excuses this year. They should go in. Their secondary should be at full strength for the first time all year. With Tamarcus Davis back. Chase Lucas didn't play against Colorado. He should be back. Looks like Chip Trainum is going to play practice today. Definitely fingers crossed he's able to be out there. So ASU looks like they're going to be at full strength for the most part. So definitely got to go out there and play your best against this team because, we've seen what Chip Kelly can do when he's given control of the program. I mean, what he did at Oregon, he set records. He took to the college football playoff.
He changed he changed football.
They were either playing for or winning the Pac-12 every single year that he was there.
Yeah.
So, definitely did a great job turning this program around now in his 4th year. The cupboard was really bare when he got there. They were playing a lot of underclassmen. He's done a good job bringing in a lot of transfers, and they had their big signature win against LSU that shot them up the rankings. They were unranked going to that LSU game and came out ranked 13. So
yeah,
they're as good as, like I said, they're as good as advertised. And,
what was it, Ryan? When
Kelly can do as an offensive coach.
Chip, the cover was very bare. His first year, how many freshmen did he have in that class?
Oh, so many. I mean,
like 20, like 23
was a freshman. I mean, Britton Brown, their running back, I think he was there. They did not, like I said, they did not have a lot of guys, a lot of great players.
Well, it was something. It was like it was like 30 something freshmen they had brought in. A lot of walk-ons.
Some walk-ons. Yeah, that's
but
right.
but the key was, I think he's gotten his kind of players, and this is not Oregon. He's adapted his scheme to the kind of athletes he has. He's not forcing things to be a certain. This is not basketball on grass. It's a lot. There's a lot of motion, a lot of deception in what they're doing. They keep you on your toes, and we've talked about having clean eyes.
Yes.
And maybe explain what that means, both at all different
Yeah,
positions.
we'll get into that here in a minute, but
Sure.
just want to get into their offense. Of course, the Chip Kelly team, you have to start with their offense.
Mhm.
And, this is, just like you had at Oregon, a run first team that oftentimes set up the pass. They're averaging 200 yards a game on the ground, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
434 yards per game of total offense. I mean, this is a high explosive offense that can beat you in a lot of different ways. And it starts with their quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He's been in the program now for 4 years. He's been a starter during that whole time. And, I had my doubts whether he could be the guy, there. And he's done a great job. Dual threat so far this year, 51 of 89, 919 yards, 9 touchdowns against just 1 interception on the season. And then 118 rush yards, and those 2 rushing touchdowns he had both came last week against Stanford. So he's having himself a fantastic year. And he did battle some injuries last week. Looked like he was prone on the ground a few times.
Shoulder.
He got knocked out. Yeah, looked like his shoulder was acting up on him, but he was able to come back in and finish that game off. So not only is he very talented, both through the air and on the ground, he's a tough kid too.
Yeah, I mean, this 57% completion doesn't look great, but it's kind of front end loaded. I mean, the incompletion, he was really not throwing the ball well their first game. But he's been getting, I guess when you see that, know that he's been getting, the stats are sort of coming in his direction of late.
Yeah, when you watch, if you watch that Stanford game,
Yeah.
He was really playing well, hitting guys left and right. I mean, he was slinging it all over the yard, and oh man, it was actually fun to watch how good he was, just hitting his targets, and it was very interesting to see.
Well, Fresno State, I think, may have shown us the way, and I think largely that game was. I mean, the play of that quarterback in that Fresno State game was Herculean. I mean, he left it all on the field.
Yeah.
And I hope that's inspiration to our kids to see. They were not favored at all, but they
definitely want to watch that film, because the great thing about Fresno State is they were able to get stops when they needed to.
That's right. That's right.
A high scoring game. Fresno State had to go down and score a touchdown in the final seconds to win that game, but they were able. Their defense did make some crucial stops when they needed to.
Right.
So if I'm ASU and I'm Antonio Pierce, I'm definitely using that film as a bit of a blueprint on what to do against this team, and they're going to need to, because running back Zach Charbonnet has really come on and played extremely well. Being the Michigan transfer, he's kind of come in and become the primary back. 46 carries, 360 yards, 7 touchdowns on the season, and he is a load. He's a big guy to bring down, and I've been very, very impressed with his play thus far. He has really meshed. Sometimes you don't know how transfers are going to play, but he's meshed very well into this offense and been just huge.
Well, it's a great 1-2 punch with DTR and Carbonet, and I'll have another glass, by the way, of Carbonet.
Yeah,
I'll have mine at the game. But no, it's a great 1-2 punch. It is absolutely like you say, run first, and therein lies the issue, folks. You have to pick your poison. I think you're going to have to decide, what do you want to shut down, the pass game or the run game. And we'll get into that in a second, and keys of the game. But I do think that one of these guys, if Robinson is showing that he's got a bad wing, and he's nursing that bad shoulder, that's going to be a liability. I think we'll probably try to get to that shoulder.
Yeah, I would definitely, against this team, I think,
You have to.
you might want to stack the box, just initially, at least initially, just to make that, shut down their running game.
I agree.
Because, DTR, while he has certainly shown ability in the passing game before, this team's primary, they're run first team. They're a run to set up the pass
Yes.
type team, and
Well, they're a lot like us in a way.
yeah, very true. And Britton Brown has been a nice, he was the starter along with Demetric Felton last year, and he was expected to kind of be the primary back, and he's been sharing carries with Charbonnet, but he's making the most of his opportunities. He actually has more carries than Charbonnet, and he had a very, very nice game against Stanford as well.
Mhm.
I think he ran for over 100 yards on only 9 carries. So he has definitely come on and been a complimentary piece in that offense.
Is he a senior or a graduate student? Do you know?
I think he's a senior.
So did we play against? No, he would have been Duke was too far back when we played him in the Sun Bowl, so he wouldn't have played.
Oh yeah, that's way too far back.
Yeah.
But
that's like 6 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I think probably maybe the biggest threat in this offense is wide receiver Kyle Phillips.
Right.
This guy has really proven himself to be DTR's go-to receiver. He's definitely who they look for on 3rd and long. He's everything. He's a safety blanket, but he's also a game breaker. He's actually got really great speed. Looking at him, you really wouldn't think he's much of a speed guy, but he finds ways to get open, reads the zone very well. He's a very intelligent receiver. He's basically got it all. I fully expect to see him playing on Sundays. He's got everything you want in an NFL receiver, and he's definitely filled up the stat sheet very, very well. His team's leading receiver at 16 receptions, 294 yards, and 5 touchdowns on the season. I think, if you are intent on stopping the run, this is the guy you got to look at and say, hey, this is who they're going to go to beat us, because he does have that kind of ability. And then he'll use the tight end quite a bit. Greg Dulcich has had himself a nice year thus far. 7 receptions, 177 yards, and a touchdown on the year. So that was another hallmark of Chip Kelly's teams at Oregon. They did use the tight end very well in their offense.
I'm curious, where would you rate Phillips next to Drake London at SC?
Oh, wow. That is a very good question. London's kind of younger, so he's still got a higher ceiling, I think, as far as potential goes.
Mm-hmm.
But just as far as a guy who can read a defense, see the zone, find the open spaces, and has, he has very, very good hands as well. Yeah. If I'm looking at drafting a guy to add to my team, obviously depends on what my needs are. And
well, you're a fantasy guy
playing in, but I would absolutely take a very long look at Kyle Phillips.
Yeah, I would have thought that you being a fantasy guy that London might score more points for you, but
oh man, well, but Drake London's is in an offense that doesn't have much of a running game, though.
Correct.
It's not really a fair question because USC throws the ball so much.
Yeah.
That Drake's going to get more points, but Kyle Phillips being the wide receiver 1 on this team, being the red zone target that he is, he's definitely a factor as well. I think they both.
The difference for me is at least once a game, London leaves me with my jaw on the floor with the most athletic plays you've seen in a long time. So that's kind of the only difference.
He really goes up and gets the ball.
His range,
those highlight reel plays. Whereas Kyle Phillips is a little bit more steady Eddie.
Right.
Just kind of goes out there, goes about his business. But when he gets the ball in his hands, you definitely notice him.
Yeah. So. Well, maybe we'll have to get real up close and personal at basketball games this year when London's playing for the Trojans in basketball too. Yeah.
But so that's the UCLA's offense. Their defense has been a little, it's been pretty good this year, honestly. Chip Kelly's teams haven't always been the strongest defensively, but this team, this unit has played well at times. They've been a factor, and a big reason why has been Quantrez Knight, a defensive back guy that you can line up all over the field. He's been playing. He's played corner. He's played safety. He'll play in the box. It just does a little bit of everything, and he's very active on the field. 25 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. I mean, definitely fills up the stat sheet with what he can do defensively, and just not great in coverage kind of guy. He doesn't have a career interception, but definitely very solid in tackling. He's not somebody that you can get around or stiff arm. He's just a very, very tough kid, and somebody that you definitely need to know where he is on the field before the play starts. And then going into the linebackers here, Mitchell Agude and Carl Jones, two guys that are game breakers. I mean, they definitely go out there and make plays. Jones, and he'll shoot the gaps and get guys in the backfield. Agude is a guy who can drop into coverage, and he's got a nose for the ball. 4 forced fumbles on the season from this kid.
That's big.
Very, very impressive.
That's a big number.
Yeah, and then on the D line, Dante Jackson has had himself a nice season as a pass rusher. 2.5. He leads the team with 2.5 sacks on the season, and has also collected an interception on the year. So this UCLA defense, as a unit, has tended to give up some big plays, as we saw in Fresno State. Weren't able to get off the field in the final minute, but they definitely have some players on this team.
Is it safe to say, Ryan, that really the linebacking core is really the heart and soul of the defense? That's what defines them.
I would throw Knight in there as well. I think Knight's kind of the heart and soul of the defense, with the linebackers kind of being the complements to him. I would say that's probably the case.
Yeah. Well, so are they going to blitz more than we are? We're not blitzing much, but we are getting pressure.
I think to kind of generate some pressure. I mean, they don't have guys really filling up the stat sheets with a ton of sacks. I don't know how much pressure they've really been able to generate. Just rushing 3 or 4. So yeah, I mean, I would say they're going to probably blitz more to try to generate some more pressure on Jaden.
Yeah,
that's definitely for sure.
Well, I think
they've been pretty solid against the run. I mean, I think they're averaging, giving up only like 60 yards on the ground this season. So they've been very, very good against the run. I think on defense they're giving up whatever it is.
That's about 69, I think.
64 yards that's on the ground per game. So yeah, the linebackers are playing extremely well, and they haven't really played any teams that are really run first teams. You think that about Stanford, but UCLA got up on them so quick. They turned Stanford into
they had to throw
team.
Yeah. Right.
And that's always been the hallmark of Chip Kelly team. They get up early on their opposition, turn the opposing team into a one-dimensional, usually throwing team, and then they're able to kind of just focus on that aspect of the ball defensively. So it's important for ASU to start fast and not get into a hole against this team, because that's kind of the script that Chip Kelly teams like to follow.
You don't want to play his ball game; you want to play yours.
Definitely.
And you want to dictate. So yeah, they've impressed me as a solid defensive team. I happen to think, in having watched all their games and watched our games intently and multiple times, that I think we have a better defense. I think we have better defense.
Head to head, yes, I would say that is the case.
Yeah, just in terms of 11 positions, we are more talented. We have better players now.
I think UCLA's strength is definitely in their offense. I don't think anyone's debating that. They definitely have more players, more game breakers on offense.
And
Just I think that as when it comes to ASU's offense going up against this defense, you just kind of have to take advantage of your opportunities when you get them.
Yeah.
That's the big thing, because UCLA's offense is going to do the same thing against your defense. So this game could turn into a bit of a shootout. Might be the first team to 40 wins.
there you go.
If nothing else, it should be fun to watch.
Well, they're scoring like 38 and a half, and we're still in around 32.7, somewhere there. So yeah, they're who we want to be in terms of production, points production. But we're not quite there yet. I think by the time the season's over, we'll be at that 40 mark that Zach has been sort of told to be at.
I think that's the plan. And you never know, if this does turn into a bit of a shootout, ASU might get more possessions. They could get to that 40 mark.
I just don't. I don't want to get in a shootout with these guys. Knowing what they.
I don't think Herm does either. I think
no.
That playing more of a grinded out, control the clock game, keep the ball out of UCLA's offense's hands is more the script that ASU wants to follow.
Right.
But at the same time, I also think they have enough firepower to keep pace with UCLA. So,
with and we'll get into the keys of the game here, as far as how we both see a clear path to victory here. But
our keys to the game presented by XLLending.com. For all your mortgage needs, check out XLLending.com. Now, I know it's a little bit cliche for you Friday Night Lights fans, but I think it definitely applies in this situation. Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. No dirty eyes. Herm Edwards always talks about dirty eyes, getting fooled by the misdirection, the play fakes,
the motion,
the RPO. Yeah, you mentioned the motion, exactly. Against this explosive UCLA defense that likes to use a lot of that stuff. They'll use a lot of pre-snap motion. They'll use the RPO very, very well. Mm-hmm. They'll use that read option. They do a lot of different things well with the schemes that they set up, the formations. They are a very complex, high octane type offense, and you really got to be disciplined as a defense in order to keep pace with them.
Yeah, and it seems to me like, having watched their games, they are unfolding their playbook week by week, so just as we are too, I think.
Yeah, I think as most teams are at this point.
Yeah, but I think there's enough film to see tendencies, tells. You want to see tells on defense.
4 games, I'd like to think so. Yeah,
you want to see tells. Yeah. Especially spacing and where they're lining up offensively from man to man, on run plays versus pass plays. But yeah,
most coaches, most offensive coordinators have those tendencies where you can kind of gauge what they're going to do based on where everybody's lined up. If you just look hard enough, watch enough film, kind of know what to look for. I think and they've played this team enough times that I think they'd like to think they have a good beat on things. But we'll certainly see. I think that's going to be the big thing. The big matchup in this game is going to be ASU's defense against UCLA's offense.
Correct.
If ASU's defense can win enough times, maybe not necessarily force any turnovers. Remember, they didn't force any turnovers against Colorado, but we're still able to shut them down. I'm not expecting them to do that against UCLA. Might need to come away with a couple turnovers in order to come away with a victory, but at the same time, you got to get off the field on third down. I think that's a huge thing, especially with such a big third down weapon in Kyle Phillips. That's going to be the key to this game, maybe even more so than stopping Charbonnet, Brown, and DTR. Is keep knowing where Kyle Phillips is on the field at all times and keeping an eye on him.
Yeah, well, I think you're playing into my whole philosophy here, and that is make them one-dimensional. Take away, do whatever it takes to stop that run and force them to go to that one receiver, and we'll take our chances, with our good back end.
Well, yeah, now that our secondary is back to full health, no excuses. So, I mean, if you can stack the box, stay disciplined, don't try to over pursue or try to make it some kind of highlight reel play. Know your assignment and stick to it. should be able to
Yes.
make this team one-dimensional and get off the field when you need to.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key because of this running quarterback and watching how he gets out around the edge, we got to set the edge hard with our DNs in this game,
Yes.
and let them be the field generals and force it all back to the middle,
Yeah.
right? And not let them
Where
get
you have
around the
help. Yeah.
yeah. And I think we have the talent to do it, quite frankly.
I would agree. And, as far as offense goes, I think JD5 needs to become JD let it fly. This UCLA defense. I mentioned how tough UCLA is against the run, giving up just 64 rushing yards per game. Now they haven't really played a run heavy team like ASU as of yet, but they are giving up quite a few yards through the air. At some point, Jaden Daniels is going to need to air it out against this defense in order for them to be successful. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the
run is important, but this is a team that's tough against the run. So at some point, he is going to need to air it out and maybe take control of this game through the air,
right?
Much like he did against Oregon 2 years ago. That could end up being the case in a game like this.
And quite frankly, folks, if Ricky Pearsall has to let it fly, fine with me.
Yeah, sure. It's worked so far. This team keeps scoring touchdowns off of trick plays.
It's another way. It's another way to get down to to air it out. And
hey, it's another wrinkle to the offense that the opposing defense has to look at.
That's right.
So yeah, if that's what it takes, definitely. I fully expect at least one trick play in this game, especially now that you have a weapon like Elijah Badger out there. There's no reason they shouldn't make use of him. So yeah, absolutely. Just whatever it takes to move the ball down the field, put points on the board. Go for it. That's what I say.
Yeah. I just think that with a wounded quarterback and
we'll see what kind of shape he is.
We'll see it quickly.
As far as throwing the ball.
Sure.
I don't know how wounded he is after last week. He was able to come in and finish the game. So
yeah,
we'll see on that.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the we have a hit. ASU likes putting pressure on. No, not big risk. We don't have to blitz to do it. But if you stop the running, you force this guy to be a pass only guy, and you flush him out of that pocket and make him throw. He might have to. He might be.
He does have a tendency to make some mistakes in years past. This year hasn't been so much the case. He's taking really good care of the football. Mm-hmm. But I think this is arguably the best defense UCLA will have played up to this point. Maybe even better than it. I think you make the argument it's better than
LSU. Yeah,
you can make the argument that that's the case. At least after the way UCLA shredded them.
So. I mean, you can make the case that Fresno State was a good defense and made big stops when they had to, but it was in the end it was a gritty quarterback who just made big plays.
Yeah, he was ultimately the difference. But what gave him the opportunity was that Fresno State defense getting off the field. I think that's what will probably end up being the difference for ASU if they end up winning this game. Will be a big stop by the defense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So and then you mentioned penalties by the special teams against Colorado. And you feel like that's another key in this game?
Well, I think they can clean that up. And if you do that, you're talking about putting the ball at the near the 45, 50 and running downhill from there. It's a whole different, field position on special teams is really important to me.
Especially with a return like DJ Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, my goodness, and everybody knows it's going to him, but he's so good at picking a lane and just putting moves on. He's so quick, and he's a great combination of moves and speed. And quite frankly, I just think if we watch some of the dumb penalties, if you look at how I looked at where they came from, is guys actually coming late around people and kind of hooking, kind of blocking on the side of the body, and just make a clean block. Don't worry about that guy getting around, somebody getting around you. At some point,
just get in his way. Don't stop him. You don't have to stop him completely.
Get him out of his lane. Yeah. Get him out of their lane. Yeah. But I think this, I'm the special teams freak because I'm all about field position, and where you start. You start at the, if we get out to the somewhere near the 40, 45, you just get 5 yards and it's all downhill. It's downhill from there. And then
I would say no penalties, period.
yeah, well, play your best game.
Yeah. Don't beat yourself. I think that's the key thing on all three phases of the game. If you don't beat yourself, you give yourself, I think, an excellent chance to win this game. I mean, even as good as UCLA is, I think that if you don't beat yourself, don't shoot yourself in the foot with dumb penalties, you give yourself an excellent chance to win this game.
Right.
So those are our keys to the game, presented by xllending.com. For all your mortgage needs, check out xllending.com. Now, of course, our score predictions. Mine probably won't be very popular, but I'm going to give it to the home team in this case. I just think that UCLA's offense is going to be a little bit too much, especially down the stretch. I think they're going to get some key first downs, and like a traditional Chip Kelly team, kind of turn it into they're going to jump out to a lead and then turn it into kind of milk the clock mode at that point, and ASU will just run out of time. I think that'll ultimately be the case. They'll get close, but won't be able to get the ball back.
Yeah.
UCLA is just too tough on the ground, and will ultimately run out the clock, winning 41-38 is my prediction.
I see. So 41-37 is not exactly a boat race, but it is high scoring, and I do think that we'll play a little bit of Herm ball near the end.
The defenses will show up at some point.
Yeah, but I
don't think it'll just be just going back and forth, scoring each and every possession.
Yeah, I think if we get the ball with, and let's say we're behind by a score with 4 minutes left, you play the 4-minute drill, and I think you can pull it off. You play a little bit of Herm ball, so to speak, ball control.
Well, it's
methodical down the field.
Worked for them before. I mean, if they can, that's going to be the key thing for me is, if they can be a multi-dimensional team if ASU can be a multi-dimensional team offensively, is able to run the ball against this team, which nobody's really been able to do thus far. I think that'll definitely be a big key and might give them the leg up in winning in this game. I just think we'll see what Chip Trainum looks like. I think this team has definitely missed him at certain points. But
absolutely.
That's what I want to see is how he looks. If he comes out and is running strong, is able to move the chains early on, UCLA could be in for a long game. But if he has to go out, that ankle's just not healed up yet, and ASU has to rely on Rashad White and solely on Rashad White and Daniel Nagata, I don't know if there's enough in the tank to come away with victory.
I worry less.
That could end up being the difference.
I worry less about Chip's. I think they've high ankle sprains, given it as long as it's taken. I mean, they're all different because they're basically like a green stick fracture in many cases. But in this case, I worry less about this, how robust his ankle is. I worry more about his conditioning and his speed. But I think,
despite me, and that's certainly something I think we'll watch as well. John and I hope to be in Pasadena for the game this weekend. I might be picking against ASU, but that does not mean I won't be rooting for them to prove me wrong.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd rather ASU win than be right. Believe me.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for this week's show. We thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate our loyal fans tuning in each and every week. As we say, you give us 30 minutes, we give you the world of ASU football. So for Big John Caldwell, I'm the RyKno Ryan Knowles. We say good night. Go Devils. Forks up. Beat the Bruins.
Go Devils.